everyone. My name is Bruce Swartz. I'm from Montreal, province of Quebec. This is Aristarchus crater. As we're panning up here, we're going to go back to see, oh yeah, the UFO. The UFOs and lights on the surface, different moments that I capture lights on the surface of the moon, and I'm always looking, of course. There's two that I haven't showed yet, and I'm going to show them. Just regular lights, right? They're hard to tell apart. It's just lights because we can't see through those darn lights. But in reality, I think it's pretty deliberate. So let's get into it. Yesterday I showed this amazing finding was the UFO coming out of the surface. And as you can see, with a little bit of pixelation beginning, as I'm so close, it's about the limit that we're going to be able to see it. But you know what? We're close enough to see that it's coming out of the bloody surface. That's the most exciting thing. And oh yeah, this is what's going by on the left while you see that object coming out of the surface in that hole, right? Whether it be a hole or platform or something, I don't know, but it's pretty straight up clear to me that this should be in the news because, well, at least everyone in the ufology community that is researching the moon, come on there. The big channels, this is what I want to reach. Why? Because the big channels have the platform, they have the word. So they should be sharing the truth. If they see me, I hope they do. So if there were UFOs arriving to the surface or leaving the surface, could they be going into things like this, like these tubes that we're looking at right here, for example? It must be some type of way for UFOs to arrive and enter the surface. Again, there's these detachments of black and bright objects. I see them all the time. The UFO, check this one out. You see over on the left there's a white spot also, and there's a white one on the right. I don't know if it's its shadow or if it's something following it. We'll see it in another light as we advance here. I'm just taking the exposure down so we can see it all ways. So there's that thing here. I flipped the inversion and quite simply, so now the black dot with the other object on the bottom there, whether they're following each other, I think pretty much they are, but I always wonder, that could be the distance that object is over the moon, theoretically, if it was its shadow. So take a look at the detachment, what I mean when I say detachment. There's no terms for any of this. It's something unknown that we're looking at, but often a bright light is attached to something darker, and they separate, they connect, they change connections sometimes. Here's a very interesting one. We'll take a closer look at this one and slow it down. The light that you're looking at in the crater is flashing. That's really cool. Obviously not the sun. And another interesting thing is that this UFO, there's another light in the center of it. You can see it very, very well with a magnifying lens. Anyways, I don't know if you all have one handy, but sometimes it's practical. And yeah, it's passing by right in front of the crater and near Copernicus. It's not hiding at all and just traveling along the surface, probably interacting those lights with the UFOs. They have to have some indication. So check it out. It's dark, right? Well, it's normal. It's really dark, but watch that bright light light up like an explosion or smoke or cloud on the bottom, and it's just illuminating the whole surface. I often see those. What is that supposed to be? Or those supposed to be? A cloud appears simultaneously with three illuminated stationary objects that light up. But guess what? There's black beside some of them, black dots or spots. So from my experience with the research, at least 4.5 years, I can tell that it's probably a UFO that's ready to take off. Maybe three of them. And what the heck's that? Now what would that be? Can you see all the clouds and the atmosphere around it? That's why it's so hard to see the surface. In reality, no one's ever seen all of the surface. Look at the smoke moving over here. Look at that. You could see the light flaring up. The lights, three lights actually flaring up. A UFO and projectiles. Let's do the front and back. We do the front and back. I love doing that because we get to see the footage repetitively, because that's what I spend all my time doing, and I try to think and think what's going on. Look, if it's not a war, it's definitely something on fire. Is fire being thrown around with these objects? So whatever they may be, on the surface there's also illuminated areas where they are not as bright as the craft. So that theoretically could be other areas that are maybe shooting, for example. I don't know. What is this supposed to be? It's not small, guys. It's big explosions on the moon. I mean, it's ridiculous that that could be there on the moon. Someone would talk about it for sure. I'm not going to play the video again, but remember yesterday or the day before I showed this video, more projectiles, another UFO where the light's actually changing positions. And that's interesting too, because every time I catch a UFO on the moon, there's many different characteristics. Sometimes they're stationary, sometimes they're moving around. These, I love these, right? They're taking off, and some of them are arriving. We'll have to keep our eyes open for Virgin Galactic. Their prototype looks a lot like the V shape, again, on the NASA emblem. Anyway, guess where we are? Sinus Iridum. So this is Sinus Iridum, where China supposedly landed their rover. Right there. Look at the surface. Sinus Iridum. So now we're going to go see one of my theories anyways, and at the same time, while I'm talking about a theory, we're going to actually look at some live footage. Quite simply, the moon and its illuminated region, especially the north side, where you can see there the Crisium Basin, right there on the top left. That's the Crisium Basin. But look at all the spots in the center that are not illuminated by the sun. Well, say to yourself, they can travel around inside of those lights, including hazes and stuff. You'll never see them. When you bring the exposures down, you see more areas exactly, quite simply, where the sources are coming from. And when you approach up to them, like here, for example, this is Aristarchus crater, right inside along the ridge at the back of Aristarchus crater, inside the square, I say. People laugh at me. Many hundreds, if not thousands, laugh at me when they say that I'm looking at pixelation. Well, it's actually not. And there's a big difference. And I've done it before. I've shown the video of what's the difference with pixelation and just refraction. This is a UFO highway. They're traveling, my friends, underneath those hazes and lights. And they're laughing at us. Like an object, right? Square, roundish, bent a bit. Like it's bent out of proportion and standing up off the surface and a shadow underneath it. A satellite, whatever it may be. Those are the structures on the moon. Look at this. Right beside the object that I showed you is another whiter object, very bright and reflective. Until I invert it, like I just did now, look on the top. The arrow is pointing in the bottom frame at the same object that I'm showing you in the top smaller frame. You can see it looks like something out of place alongside of the crater. Let's zoom out a lot more and let me show you where the connections are. And it's like literally spies like us, okay? Check it out. Bases, or I doubt they're houses, right? They're pretty large, like 40, 50 kilometers, maybe 30, 40 kilometers. But all connected, tops, and, on the ends of the craters and stuff like that, you can see the connections and even straight paths and everything. So, come on. Clouds on the moon. If that's just dust or smokes or hazes, there's definitely something wrong. 3 lights that appear here. It's just, it should be all over. Look at the flashes. It's just absolutely incredible. It took me a while to understand that there were clouds, and then I said, lo and behold, that's why nobody sees the surface. Because in general, real quickly, here, if I put the exposure down, you can see a lot better, and that's all I'm doing. But look at the haze, the light, the refraction, and the sunlight, how it's hard to see. Can you see the car back there? Hang on, I'll bring the exposure down. There it is. That's exactly what I'm doing on the surface to try to get a glimpse of anything and everything that's moving under the clouds and hazes. Eratosthenes crater at the end of the Apennine Mountains, a square-ish object in the center, many high elevated objects, and of course over to the right you can see it a bit better that there's some type of haze and even a wind current, dare I say. well, it's what else do you want it to be? Is there a fan on the moon blowing the smoke by around? If it wasn't for my amazing community, this channel wouldn't even exist. Thanks a whole bunch, everyone. I really appreciate it. Slow disclosure is in progress. More information will be coming. A lot more.
This is Houston. Say again, please.